Good morning and welcome to the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors meeting for August 14th. Could we all rise for our pledge to the flag? Madam Clerk, can you please lead us?
Let us begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, announcements. Madam Clerk?
Announcements. This is a time for board members and county staff to provide updates of upcoming county events that may be of interest to the public. I would like to read the report out from the closed session held after the regular agenda on August 7th, 2018. The board reconvened to open session to report out at 3:11 p.m. Item 5, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Government Code Section 54957B1, Title, Health and Human Services Director. There was no reportable action taken. Item 4, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Government Code Section 54957B1, Title, Building Official. Supervisor Garamendi left the closed session at 2:49 p.m. There was no reportable action taken. The board adjourned at 3:13 p.m.
All right, thank you. Moving on to recognition and acknowledgments.
What about staff?
I'm sorry, excuse me. Announcement, any board announcements?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Next Monday, August 20th, there will be a rally at the state capitol over the state water grab in the Twin Tunnels. I know that a good majority of the water district as agencies will be there, along with legislators from the state. This is something that crosses party boundaries very easily, so it should be a very good turnout. Wednesday, August 29th, there will be an open house in Stockton at the Agricultural Center regarding the Groundwater Sustainability Authority. We are required to provide public outreach for that, and so if anybody's interested, it will be at 6:30. And if anybody wants to contact me, they certainly can. But we would love to have the public's input on what we're doing with that Groundwater Basin Authority. It's currently almost 2 years in the works, and we have to have it completed by 2020. And a reminder again that if you know of people who want to use the Parrots Ferry Bridge, please don't be a pedestrian on that bridge. It's just not a safe place to play. We've had a couple of young people try to jump off that bridge last Wednesday, and it's just going to lead to some tragedy. So I just caution everybody, if you're a pedestrian, stay off the bridge. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Supervisor Garamendi.
Thank you. I guess it comes down to if everybody jumped off the bridge, would you follow the question, right? I want to just thank some of our staff that helped put together the Mountain Ranch Community Safety Center last week, and since they're in the room, it seemed like a good opportunity. Matt Boyer, thank you so much for helping out on the signage. Kristen, thanks for the partnership with the Resource Center and enrollment and everything that's going on up there. Patrick Martin, thank you so much for making it happen, and all the volunteers in the Sheriff's Office, as well as our deputies that were there, and then our local fire department, Central Fire, and Chief Stone. Really did a great job, and I want to thank them and acknowledge all the work that staff and volunteers did to make it happen. So thank you very much.
Any other announcements from the board? Staff announcements? Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning. Nancy Giddens, Calaveras County Librarian. I wanted to make a confession to you. A couple of weeks ago in the library, well, actually, I was on the planet of Tatooine repairing the Millennium Falcon, and an Imperial starship landed behind me, and stormtroopers jumped out, and I had to kill some of them. Yes, our visual reality system is up and running in the library, and all kinds of wonderful experiences that you can have with that. We hired a limited term, part-time funded by Friends of the Library position to enhance programming for children with the STEAM activities, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, for kids age 6 to 12, but also kids older than 6 to 12. The visual reality will be a part of that. Also, 3D printing will be a part of that, and regular programming for that will begin in September for both children and adults for those two technologies. This new limited term person that we hired has done programming with kids 6 to 12 all summer long. When their parents bring the younger kids to story time, they've come along during the school break, and he's done Lego builds, engineering experiments, and a Hot Wheels physics thing with them in the library. Regular programming will go on at the 10:30 hour on Wednesday for kids who are not in public school. For the public schools, we're going to have regular programming probably on Thursday afternoons for those kids to promote the STEAM activities. This enhances our first 5 position for the 0 to 5 STEAMs. So we're very, very excited about that. I hope you all become a part of that adult programming for that stuff, because it's going to be great. It's not just fun. I mean, it is really, really fun, but I never thought I'd get to kill a stormtrooper, but it's also very, very educational. I also want to announce that in Arnold, Murphys, Valley Springs, and San Andreas, we now have 1 gigabyte of bandwidth. The Scenic project is coming to a close. We finished the preparation work for the Angels Camp branch last Thursday. As soon as AT&T installs the circuits, our wonderful IT department will go in and do their magic, along with my staff, Len Cuneo, and we will be live for Wi-Fi and public computers in those 4 branches and the Central Library. So I want to really shout out a huge thank you to our IT department, without whom this project would not have been possible. They spent many, many hours on this. Stan Moore approved it. I think he said last week he didn't have any idea how involved it would be. It has been an 18-month project, but we're coming to completion. Hans Weidhofer and Brian Miller have been the leaders on this, and they've been absolutely astounding. I thank also the State Library, which gave us the $90,000 to get all the stuff we needed to get this done, and to you who have approved the project, because it did involve higher provider costs for this fiscal year. After this, we should get the E-rate grant and have much lower costs. But thank you to you all. We're very excited about this. I'm glad it's going to be finally over. This Scenic thing has been massive, but I think we've brought something really important and valuable to the county. So thank you very much.
Nancy,
Nancy?
if I could ask a quick question. It's hard for me to actually imagine you hurting anything. So when you were visiting the resort planet Tatooine,
Yes.
What was your character?
I was Han Solo.
Excellent.
Repairing the Millennium Falcon. Yes, it was great fun. So come on over to the library.
Any other staff announcements? Seeing none, we'll move on. Madam Clerk, recognitions and acknowledgements.
Item 1 is from the Board of Supervisors to proclaim August 2018 as Child Support Awareness Month in Calaveras County.
Supervisor Mills, I believe you have this.
Yes, thank you. So this is to proclaim August 2018 as Child Support Awareness Month in Calaveras County. Whereas the vision of the Central Sierra Child Support Agency is partnering with families to create self-sufficiency, and whereas the professional staff of the Central Sierra Childhood Support Agency worked diligently to fulfill this vision by partnering with families involved in more than 5,200 cases and collecting over $11 million in support last federal fiscal year. And whereas the Central Sierra Child Support Agency declares its commitment to having a meaningful impact on the families it serves, and whereas the Central Sierra Child Support Agency is engaged in educating its customers regarding their cases and the community regarding the services it provides, and whereas the Central Sierra Child Support Agency affirms the important role it plays in partnering with parents to support the well-being of children, and whereas the Central Sierra Child Support Agency encourages parents to be accountable for their children, providing them with many opportunities to succeed, and whereas Child Support Awareness Month recognizes and acknowledges parents who work diligently to support their children, to provide both emotional and financial stability, thus having a positive impact on their children. And whereas the Central Sierra Child Support Agency thanks its partner agencies and recognizes its child support professionals who strive to continuously improve their customer service and make a difference in the lives of the children in our community. That's a mouthful.
Yes, it is. And if I could have just a minute, I have something that my director has asked me to write for you. Good morning, Chair and Supervisors. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Delane Hegel, and I am the Program Manager for Central Sierra Child Support Agency, and I'm here on behalf of our Director who was unable to be with us today. Central Sierra Child Support Agency is a joint power authority formed for the purpose of delivering child support services in Alpine, Amador, Calaveras, and Tuolumne counties. I am here today because August is Child Support Awareness Month. Child Support Awareness Month is a national initiative to help inform families about the support services that we are available to help them. Studies have shown time and time again that when both parents are actively involved in their children's lives, it provides quality of life and kids improve. This is especially true for kids of single and divorced parents. This year, the awareness campaign theme throughout the state of California is "They don't need perfect, they just need you." Encouraging parents to be involved no matter how big or how small. Through our state-administered program, we are able to offer many services to families, which include locate services, genetic testing, collection of support, assistance with health insurance coverage, and more. Statewide, we have over 6,000 child support professionals collecting more than $2.5 billion in child support. Here locally, we are staffed with 40 and on our track to collect more than $11.4 million this year. More than $3.3 million of those dollars are for customers right here in Calaveras. In addition to spreading the word in our community about the services we have available, Child Support Awareness Month is an opportunity for us to recognize the staff of Central Sierra Child Support Agency for their incredible work that they do. Our talented and dedicated staff are collecting nearly 80% of all child support currently due in our communities. Our performance, as measured using federal performance factors, has landed our agency in the top 5 out of 49 counties for more than 10 consecutive years. I am here today representing all of the co-workers throughout the agency. On behalf of the families we serve, I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank and commend each of our staff members for the continued dedication to our community. I am extremely grateful to be a part of this incredible team. We would also like to acknowledge and thank Supervisor Gary Toffolini and Supervisor Mark Calaveras, who have been members of our Board of Directors for quite some time, for their excellence in leadership and guidance. You demonstrate care, concern for our program and the families we serve. Thank you for your continued support.
Public comments on this item? Any public comments? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a vote.
Mr. Chair, prior to making a motion, I'd like to make a comment. I'd want to commend the organization that has made one of the most successful attempts to provide the support for our children in this county and in our JPA. You have done an outstanding job, and it shows, being number 4 out of 49 counties.
Thank you.
Continue to do the good job you're doing.
We will.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
And with that, I would make a motion to the proclamation.
I have a motion by Supervisor Albright and a second by Supervisor Clapp. Any other comments on this item? I will say that I echo Supervisor Oliveira's sentiments on this organization. It is well run. It is all of the employees there do a very good job what they do, and I commend this organization. I've been with, as you mentioned, for a while. So with that being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors, County of Calaveras, State of California, does hereby designate the month of August 2018 to be declared Child Support Awareness Month in Calaveras County and applauds the Central Sierra Child Support Agency for its continued service to the families throughout our community. Passed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of the County Calaveras, State of California, this 14th day of August, 2018.
Thank you.
Scoot in like you like each other. Okay, ready? Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, put me on the floor.
That's right.
Madam Clerk, number 2.
Item 2 is from the Board of Supervisors to adopt a proclamation honoring Dan Leary's service to the Ebbets Pass Fire District and the greater Arnold area.
Supervisor Oliveira, you have this.
I do, Mr. Chair. I feel privileged and honored to produce this proclamation on behalf of the Board of Supervisors of Calaveras County. A proclamation honoring the service of Dan Leary to the Ebbets Pass Fire Protection District and greater Arnold area. Whereas, the Ebbets Pass Fire District and the broader Arnold community lost a valued member and leader on July 4th of 2018 with the death of Director Dan Leary. Whereas, Dan Leary was a tireless and outspoken advocate of fire and emergency services. Whereas, Dan Leary served with the excellence for more than 24 years on the Board of Directors for the Ebbets Pass Fire District in Calaveras County. Whereas, Dan Leary's sense of humor, barbecuing skills, knowledge of firefighting skills and practices, and policy direction has aided Ebbets Pass Fire District. And whereas, his true legacy lies in the profound effect he has had on the countless men and women he mentored and taught throughout his career. I would like to add that Dan Leary was a friend of mine. Dan was a friend of the community. We shall miss him. Mr. Chair, seek a motion.
We need public comments.
I'm sorry.
Is there anybody here representing?
Good morning, Board. Mike Johnson, Ebbets Pass Fire District Fire Chief. And then on behalf of our agency and our board members that are here today, I'd like to extend the gracious gratitude for having this proclamation for Dan Leary today. He's our longest running board member in the history of Ebbets Pass, and honestly, he almost spans 50% of the agency's existence. That has nearly seen our agency go from a very humble fire district to transporting ALS, 24-hour staffed, 7-person effective each and every day agency, and Dan had his fingerprints on all of that. We have, suffered a loss and a setback that I know will recover and will never quite be the same, but as things progress, we'll have folks that'll come in that'll share their talents with our district. Although, Dan's piece that he provided to us and the whole community will be a gap that we'll be feeling for a while with transition. I'd like to also mention that, it's been a time of mourning throughout the fire service, and Dan was a big part of that his whole career, even before Ebbets Pass. He worked for Stockton Fire, McCollum Rural. He did just so much for the industry, and Dan never stopped. Even the day before his passing, he was active in the fire district, active in the community. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for this this special recognition for him, and we'll be happy to accept it on the behalf of his family today, along with some of our board of directors. Thank you.
Chief, could you introduce your guests and board members? I understand they're here.
Yeah, maybe they can come up and join me. It's our president of the board, Scott McKinney, and Tom Sullivan, board of director.
Gentlemen, would you like to say anything?
Like to thank each and every one of you. Dan was an awesome human being. He will be missed. Thank you.
Again, my thanks as well. Longtime friend Dan. Even before I was on the board, we were friends. He's the one that encouraged me to be here. Thank you.
Public comment. Any member of the public? Seeing none, bring it back to the board.
Chair, I'd like to offer a comment as well. It's rare to see someone in the fire service, well, maybe 50 years. I mean, it's just a long time. And to be a volunteer and to put in that much of their life and their effort into their community is to be commended. This paper can't do it, but it's a start. And I think we need to encourage more of, especially our younger people, to realize the impact that they can have in their community by doing what Dan did. Let him be an example.
Any other comments? If not, I'll call for a motion.
I'll move it.
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
A motion by Supervisor Mills, second by Oliveira. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Now therefore, be it proclaimed that the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors honors the memory of Dan Leary, celebrates his legacy and many contributions to Arnold and the surrounding communities with Ebbets Pass Fire District, and recognizes with great admiration and appreciation the contributions of Dan Leary over the course of his career as a firefighter and as a member of the Ebbets Pass Fire District Board of Supervisors. Passed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of Calaveras County, State of California, this 14th day of August, 2018.
Yeah, hug him. Okay, ready? One more. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, item number 3.
Item 3 is from the Board of Supervisors to adopt a proclamation honoring Motherlode Chapter number 123, Order of the Eastern Star, for 125 years of service in Calaveras County.
Supervisor Oliveira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm making this presentation, I will be making a presentation at their function later on this month, but this is a proclamation honoring Motherlode Chapter 123, Order of the Eastern Star, for 125 years of service in Calaveras County. Whereas, the Order of the Eastern Star is one of the largest fraternities in the world that has membership comprised of both men and women. And whereas, this fraternal organization has existed for well over a century. And whereas, Crescent Chapter number 165 was instituted in Murphy's, Calaveras County on June 15th, 1898. And whereas, on November 10th, 2007, Milton Chapter Number 244 of Milton consolidated with Crescent Chapter, and the new entity was named Mother Lode Chapter 123. And whereas, on November 14, 2010, Tuolumne Star Chapter Number 123 of Sonora consolidated with Mother Lode Chapter, and the new entity was named Mother Lode Chapter 123. And whereas, the members of the chapter have been very prominent in the history of Calaveras County, having contributed much to the growth and welfare of the community for the past 125 years. And whereas, the chapter has offered many charitable enterprises to the community, including scholarships, cancer treatment, relief assistance, and heart research. I would entertain a motion or public comment.
Any public comment on this item? No? Seeing none? Bring it back to the board.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
A motion by Supervisor Oliveira. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
And a second by Supervisor Clapp. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors hereby extends congratulations to the chapter for 125 years of service in Calaveras County. Passed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of Calaveras County, State of California, this 14th day of August, 2018. Is there someone here from the Morning Star folks? I guess not, Mr. Chair, so I'll be presenting this at their function.
Moving on to public comment.
Public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard.
Any public comments this morning?
Good morning, board. CAO Lutz, or surrogate counsel, and my dear friend Diane, clerk of the board, and the public. My name is Maria Henze. I'm the Sheriff's Business Administrator. This meeting will be the last time I address the board. I am moving to Gardnerville, Nevada. My husband has been transferred to the test site in southern Nevada. My last date would be September 5th, and I will be retiring from the Sheriff's Office. I wish to thank the board for its supervision to this county and to our office. As supervisors, your job is very difficult. You cannot make everybody happy 100% of the time, maybe even 50% of the time. You always do your best. You always try. You do that with the facts and the knowledge that we present to you, and only that. I don't think I'd want to wear any of your shoes. With all the challenges you have, you win some and you lose some. Nobody's perfect. As my Sicilian mother would say, if you are working, you're bound to make mistakes. If you're just sitting on your hands and you're not working, you're not going to make any mistakes, but you're not going to get the job done either. There is nothing that can be done that can't be changed. So if you go down the wrong path or you don't like the path you've chosen, you can always change it, and you know that. So I wish to thank you. I wish to thank my boss, Sheriff DeBasilio, who's a wonderful boss, and Captain Macedo, who's not here right now, but will be here soon. I wish to thank each of you, the sheriff, and the public. I wish everyone good health, prosperity, and happiness, and I thank you. May I please shake your hands? Could we have you all come up in front? We'll take a picture. Gary. Scoot over one way or the other. Maria, scoot over one way or the other. There you go. Okay. Ready? Smile. Thank you.
She made me cry.
Thank you.
The boss wants to say something.
Absolutely. She's been very instrumental in keeping the sheriff's office running. She's worse than my mother when it comes to finances. She's a stickler, and for that I thank her very much. She's done a fantastic job, and we're very sad to see her go. I hope her new adventure in Nevada works out, and she enjoys what she does over there. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and P.S., if you know anyone who wants my job, and that is wants my job.
Thank you, Maria. All right, public comment. Any other public comments?
Morning, gentlemen, ladies. Chris Johncolds, District 2. Last time I spoke about the transfer of fear from the people to the growers and my fear of something happening on my property, and the sheriff followed up right behind me with his response. I wanted to thank him for his compliment, referring to me as a young man. That hasn't happened for a while, and I appreciate that. And I also appreciate his response that I don't need to be afraid, and I'll take him at his word as he takes me at mine, that I have abated, and let's move on and have the community move forward. This has been the most positive meeting so far. This is a little sad, but I've attended here. Everyone here is very positive. Everyone's proclaiming good things. After the sheriff spoke and that meeting, I had a little barbecue at my ranch. We called it the end of the UO barbecue, the end of the era. And hopefully we're at the beginning of a new era. So we didn't get sad. We celebrated what we had done. I was there with friends I had made here from District 2 that pretty much spanned the political gamut, which shows me these things are possible. And we all had a good time and said, hopefully we can go forward. And then later in the week, we had the opening of the sheriff's substation and the revamping of the resource center. This is also a collaborative effort between everybody in District 2 from the entire spectrum, and it's such a positive thing to hear these good things happening. And I hope we can look at this, that we need to stop thinking about winning. Nobody is winning. We didn't win when we got the UO. We didn't win when we got the ban. The county is losing until we all come together and see things like the resource center, which is what we need to look at as our win. The county wins when the community wins, not when one side beats the other side into submission. Hopefully we can use these positive things and start to turn this around and rebuild that trust between ourselves so we just aren't always in disagreement. So one thing is transitioned now is concern, and I wrote to Supervisor Garamendi about this. I had a tree on my property. The AT&T trunk line runs through my property to Doe Road. I know this because I've spoken to them about it. There was a tree on that line, and I called AT&T. It took me 45 minutes to find somebody to talk to. I don't even have AT&T service. I did it because I'm part of the community, and I'm concerned about the people on Doe Road. I can look down the trunk line on my property, on the adjacent property, and see 50 trees that are going to hit it. And those people will be without service when that happens. And the growers aren't there anymore to monitor what's going on. So I just wanted to let you guys know about this. AT&T will not touch a tree until it falls on the line. So when the storms come, or the trees are breaking now from the 3 years since the fire, there's a potential there and it's certainly not unique to Doe Road, but in my situation, those people could be cut off in an emergency from service. There's no cell service there. And I just wanted to let you guys know that so that maybe we can just be aware. Have a good day.
Any other public comments?
Jason Campbell, District 5. I'd like to talk about a few things today. One is, why do we continually get lied to from, say, the building department, Ed Short? I'd like to know why I can tour the campus this morning and there's not, from what I can see, a single action being taken for any of the alleged code violations that are being addressed out in the general public. The county is being hypocritical. The county is selectively enforcing. There is this tone of let's protect public health and safety. At the last meeting, I showed you guys a very attractive nuisance, a very real, imminent threat to public health and safety. This has also been brought up with Mr. Short and the building department in code compliance. It hasn't been addressed. Selective enforcement at its finest. I still haven't seen any statistics on the dangers of shipping containers. Also, Mr. Short is inviting further litigation onto the county. In public meetings, he has stated that he will not be actively seeking all of these code violations. Still on a complaint-driven basis, that system's broken. You cannot require people to cater to one particular neighbor that doesn't like them for some particular reason and not expect the rest of the county to have to abide by those same rules. That, again, selective enforcement at its finest. There was a 3-year-old child that drowned last month in Valley Springs. Back to the pool again. These code violations exist on my very road that have been driven past multiple times by your code compliance officers, and nothing's been done about it. Selective enforcement at its finest. I have reported these things on my very road. I don't understand why your code compliance officers drive right past them to serve me paperwork for some things that I didn't even have. I don't agree with being the guinea pig experiment for these code compliance issues that I have no complaint for. Also, I'd like to point out my property has no public access, so there is no public health and safety risks on my property.
Thank you.
Good morning. Bonnie Newman, Devil Springs, from Calaveras, the county of death. Words important that I've heard on TV lately. Obsequious, it's an adjective. Characterized by showing servile compliance or deference, fawning, obedient, dutiful, cringing, submissive, servile, lacking in originality, oppressed, slavish, subordinate, ostentatious subordination of oneself to the wishes of another, either from fear or the hope of gain, menial, dutiful, parasitic, submissive, deferential, subservient. Sycophant, a noun. A toady, a flunky, a lackey, a minion, a stooge, a groveler, a kowtower, a self-seeking servile flatterer, pawning parasite, a yes man, a fawner, a flatterer, a bootlicker, a butt kisser. And finally, I've defined this word before, but it warrants repeating. A hypocrite, sham, an actor, a faker, a fraud, a phony, a poser, a quack, imposter, charlatan, pretender, masquerader, a person who pretends to be what he or she is not, one who pretends to be better than really is so, to be pious, virtuous, etc., without really being so. These are just words. I want to give you some examples. A hypocrite would be someone who says, "Till death do us part," then cheats on their spouse, gets a divorce. Someone who says, "Abortion is murder, human life is precious," unless that person is already born and their skin is brown. Someone who opposes government intrusion and regulation, like gun control, yet wants to ban cannabis. Someone in this forum that speaks against federal or global topics, like me, blasting our bone spur president, and yet comes the next week and talks about Donald Trump. Someone that objects to signs being brought into this forum, and yet the next week they bring their own signs. Those are hypocrites. Those are people that don't say what they mean and mean what they say. They don't back up their actions they don't back up their rhetoric with actions. I've been a hypocrite. I admit it. Thank you.
I'd like to stand up in defense of myself because that was obviously directed at me. And when it became obvious, I would have hoped that the chair would have stopped it. Because I am not part of the agenda here. I am not anybody that the board can act upon. And I'm certainly not a hypocrite just because I have a different opinion than somebody else. Just because I brought in a sign, somehow I'm a hypocrite, I'm wrong. But the other person that brings one in every week, that's perfectly okay. I hope the public takes to heart what they just heard and how nasty and vile that is. Just because I appreciate the President of the United States and this individual doesn't mean I should have to come under public attack in here. You know, it's getting to the point where these attacks in the meeting are just ridiculous. When we begin to attack other people in the room. I have never done that, and I'm not going to do that. But I would appreciate, Chair, that on several occasions this has happened. Sometimes people pointing at me, you did nothing. When this became obvious who she was talking about, you should have done something. I am not on the agenda. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Good morning, Beth Woodkey, District 5. Since there was no name mentioned, I don't really think that it's accurate that, there's other people that have spoken about signs in here. So when you stand up and say, oh, they're talking about me, I'm not that, you're kind of...
She has the floor.
This same individual has repeatedly attacked people who do not agree with him. He has come along and been very nasty to people that oppose his views. I would like to talk about conservative values and how members of the board publicly tout their conservative bona fides, yet insist upon leading us in a direction of overregulation when it comes to people's personal property. I'm not at all comfortable with this pending, now tabled 8.06 ordinance. I think that it is designed to selectively enforce against former registered growers. I'm appalled at the fact that we are spending a lot of money to support Calaveras for business while we go around and cite businesses in District 1, specifically A1 Sharpening and Napa Auto. I'm appalled at the behavior of this board and department heads towards all businesses in this county. I think that it's inexcusable that these small business owners have to face this level of stress and contemplate closing their doors over shipping containers, which we all know are all over the county. I think it's time to look at the overregulation around the county and think of a new path. I think it's important that we go back to regulating cannabis instead of the ban. I think we need to reinstate Measure C funds. I think that Measure C was never properly administered. I think it was absolutely selective enforcement to only go after registrants when we know there are a couple thousand illegal grows. I don't understand how the illegal grows got a pass, how they got away with not paying Water Quality Control Board. They didn't pay their registration fees, and they were not charged Measure C. I hope that every farm that is abated will receive a bill. I think everyone who had cannabis on their property and could have been taxed should have been. Thank you.
I think that no one knows better who the people that aren't paying the cannabis taxes are and why they were growing their marijuana under permission, and they did nothing to try to address the cartels and people that did not have permission. And it's just, to me, it's been a horrible free-for-all of tons of pot. I am a hypocrite. I've known that ever since I was a little kid, and it doesn't take a genius to know that you're not perfect. But my idea of a better world is for a parent to be able to send their child to school and not have them lured into using any kind of drug, including pot. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Off the topic of 806, last week was brought up the fact that our local contractors are not aware that there are bids for the county. I've spoken to 3 or 4 of them through my business, and they did not know that these bids were available to them. So I think we need to figure out a way that our local contractors can bid on these jobs, because not only did they think they could bid on it, but they could have been lower than Sacramento, because you don't have to factor in the travel time and all of that. And the fact that they live up here cuts down that expense. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was the speed going through the town of San Andreas. They're going through there at 50 and 55 miles an hour, blowing through all of the crosswalks, which we need more of, and nobody's doing anything about how fast people are driving through town. And I know I've almost been hit twice in the crosswalk at Kelly's. And we need more crosswalks. We need one down there by the Sierra Inn, because people are always running across the road trying to get hit because there's no crosswalk for them. And we also need one up next to where Cliffs is, or what used to be Cliffs. And I have to say that I thank you for your guys' conservative attributes that you add. And I thank you for the ban. I'm tired of living next to garbage. I'm tired of looking at all that stuff that's just laid out everywhere, where nobody's taking care of it, or they just abandoned the property. There's garbage everywhere. There's trailers everywhere. Now, as far as the containers go, unless there is actual water and electrical hookup, they are not a stationary structure. Only become a stationary structure when there's water and electricity hooked up. Other than that, they should be able to go back on a truck like they came in. I mean, that is the idea of a container, is that you put it on a truck and you are able to transport it back and forth. Thank you.
Morning, gentlemen, ladies. Mike Falvey, District 2. Wasn't going to speak this morning, but something happened at the last meeting I was at. I haven't been here for probably, 6 weeks or so. Been out of state, et cetera, et cetera. But last meeting I was at, I was the target of verbal abuse from the audience as I made my public comment. That's been going on. This one particular person, I'm addressing this mostly to you, Gary. This one particular person has been sitting in the audience out here for, 3 years, making comments, making rude comments, et cetera, et cetera. She disrupted the meeting last one I was at, and you did nothing. Again today, public outburst when another person was making public comment. Again, nothing was done. It's time you publicly lay down the law. Say the next person that interrupts a public speaker will be ejected. Now, if you don't want to do that, I believe it's Rule 27. I'm not up to date. I don't have it in front of me. I haven't looked at it for a while. I looked at it after the last meeting. But I think it's Rule 27 of your rules of governing. Either the board or a member of the board with a majority of the board's votes has the right to eject someone for outbursts. People have been repeatedly warned, both sides of the aisles, you need to make a stand, and if you don't want to do it, Jack, I'm asking you as my supervisor for you to do it and enlist help from the majority of the board members. You have the right to do that, Mr. Oliveira, Mr. Mills, Mr. Clapp. Any one of you guys can do it. It's time someone takes the bull by the horns, because these repeated outbursts from the audience are unacceptable. And it happened again today. I didn't know what this person was talking about. They weren't named in person, but they took it upon themselves to interfere with someone's right to public comment. So Gary, you need to take the bull by the horns and lay down a law and say, next person is out. Maybe the public will get the point. Thank you. And Jack, if he doesn't, I'd appreciate it if you do.
Good morning. Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. I'd like to promote a freedom-friendly general plan, if such a thing could be possible. Our Taxpayer Association believes it to be important that the plan protect the rights of the property owner as specified in the 5th and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution and Article 1, Section 1 of the California Constitution. Now, that'd be legally defensible, wouldn't it? That's a top law. Within reason, this suggests property owners are responsible for planning use of their property, and government is responsible for planning the use of its property, such as roads and infrastructure. This all seems to make sense and brings about harmony. This means the general plan must be general in scope and open to accommodating the wishes of the property owners while protecting the rights of other property owners and the public. Thank you.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll close public comments. We will take a 10-minute break before we go on to consent agenda.
Dennis, how are you?
All right, we are back from break, and we're going to step outside of the norm here a little bit for right now, moving forward. The sheriff has asked that we do item number 26 since he has to be somewhere. So we're going to jump to the regular agenda, and we're going to do agenda number 26. So, Madam Clerk, can we move to item 26?
Item 26 is from the Sheriff's Office to accept donations from the Friends of the Calaveras County Sheriff's Office totaling $23,627.31 and recognize the Friends of the Calaveras County Sheriff's Office for their continued support of the County Sheriff's Office.
Sheriff?
Good morning, Chair, Board. Thank you very much for pushing us to the front of this. I just want to make sure that the public and the board knows what the Friends of the Sheriff's Office does for us. And it's not just the Friends of the Sheriff's Office, it's the public. The public is the one that donates the monies to the Friends of the Sheriff's Office. So it's the public support that allows the Friends of the Sheriff's Office to do that. And Ms. Candace Kesey is a key in this whole process. She's the one that manages it. She's the one that puts all the fundraisers together. So I'd like to bring Candace up, because I know she has something to say.
Smart ass. So for this donation, this was the remainder of the Honor Guard purchases and the K-9. I wanted to let the board know that the purchases for the Honor Guard uniforms began in 2014. The first time they were ever used were at Sheriff Gary Kuntz's funeral a year later. And as the Honor Guard changes, we need to do updates to the Honor Guard uniforms. Today, the Honor Guard is a unit commanded by Sergeant Chris Dorsey. Other members are Deputy Lance Williams, Corporal Ron Cleland, Sergeant Chad Pertinga, and Deputy Sean Caccini. The primary purpose of the Honor Guard is to show honor and respect to fallen peace officers and their families in exemplary fashion, and more importantly, to remember those whose lives were dedicated to the service of their community. So on behalf of all of us, all of the Friends of the Calaveras County Sheriff's Office, it was a great pleasure to make these purchases for the Sheriff's Office. I want to also thank Corporal Jim Mosier for his dedication and the training that he has done with his new partner, K-9 Deputy Knox. I believe they're working nights right now, or otherwise he would probably be here. And a thank you to John and Barbara George of Mother Lode Towing. They donated nearly $2,000 for Knox's ballistic vest. It's a specialty vest, custom made for him that won't slow him down, protect him from stab wounds and guns and all that kind of stuff. And I would just like to thank each person who donates to FOXO to make these purchases possible. This came about in 2010. We've been an actual nonprofit since 2012, and we've made upwards of $200,000 just from donations from this community. So I want to really thank, the list is just too long. If you want to visit foxo.org, FOCSO. I try to do Facebook posts and send emails out occasionally, but there's a lot of businesses, dozens and dozens of businesses, and we even have corporations that support us on national levels. So I just want to say thank you to all those businesses, and thank you for trusting me to be a good steward for their money. Thank you.
Board questions or comments? Supervisor Oliveira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, I'm going to be a little biased here. Honor guards and law enforcement are kind of my soft spot. I understand there's a week-long academy back in somewhere in the Midwest for law enforcement honor guard school. Are you aware of that?
I am not. We actually had the benefit of a couple of our Marines that were honor guards that helped train the gentlemen that we have. And we also just used them at the graduation that we had down at the Delta Police Academy not too long ago. They brought our colors.
Okay.
So
well,
it was
that
very nice.
That training class that they have is excellent. And if there's some way that we could further our professionalism in our sheriff's department, I'd like you to consider that.
Absolutely.
Sending those folks to that.
Give me the information, and I will certainly look into it. I'm sure the honor guards guys would be happy to do that.
Thank you,
because
Sheriff.
we want to make sure that they look sharp. And if you notice, they have revolvers, not semi-automatics.
I saw that.
Any other board comments or questions? Supervisor Mill?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Friends of the Sheriff and Candace for your work. The amount of people that turn out for those events really does show there is great community support for what you're trying to accomplish here. And although sometimes it doesn't look like a budget item, it really does become that for us. But as long as we have the community supporting the Sheriff's Department, supporting public safety here in our communities, I think what you're doing will continue to be something that is appreciated, and I personally do appreciate the effort.
Any board comments? Not? We'll open to public comments on this item.
House of Gallup Taxpayer Association. We too really commend Candace Keesley, and in fact we did more than that. She previously won the award for excellence in public service, and this is an annual award that we usually goes to people that are in public service, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be paid to be in public service, and such seems to be the case with Candace. Can you think of anybody that would be more deserving of our award? Thank you.
Any other public comments on this item? If not, we'll bring it back to the board. For a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Supervisor Oliveira.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Mills. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Candace.
Thank you, Candace.
All right, moving on. We'll move back to the consent agenda. Madam Clerk.
Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion.
Any board member?
I'd like to pull 15.
Supervisor Clapp, item 15.
13.
Supervisor Mills, 13. Supervisor Oliveira, your light's on?
No.
Any member of staff wish to pull an item? If not, any member of the public?
Number 14, number 16.
Hold on. Number 14 and number 16. Anyone else? If not, we'll bring it back to the board. I'll look for a motion for the remainder.
I'll move it.
Got a motion by Supervisor Clapp.
Second.
Second by Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 13. Madam Clerk. Absolutely. You have more than 1 second. You can have a minute if you want.
Okay. Item 13 is from Public Works to adopt a resolution authorizing the Public Works Department to apply for funding through a Highway Safety Improvement Program, Cycle 9 Call for Projects for fiscal year 2019-20 through fiscal year 2022-23.
Supervisor Mills, you pulled this item?
Yes, only to, I think to just clarify too, we had received the COG report this month, and the O'Byrne's Ferry Dutchess location was listed number 1.
Yep.
And we had a fatality there this year. We have had numerous accidents because of the blind curve that's in that area, where a normal 3.5 in the cost-benefit ratio drives some of this. That particular location had achieved a 4.3.
Yes.
That's an amazingly high number. This is a project that has been languishing since 1995. And I think that the residents there and everybody do appreciate, especially who drive that highway, appreciate the effort of the county and bringing this one to the forefront and getting it out of the way. Now, we did have the electrical facilities moved and to prepare us, but hopefully we won't delay this project any more than is necessary. And I know that what we're having to do is update the old information that we've been hanging on to for so long and making that current. So I just want to reiterate how valuable and important this particular project is to the overall safety of those who drive O'Byrne's Ferry Road on a daily basis. Appreciate your effort in putting this one up there on the HSIP and getting it out there.
You're welcome, Supervisor. I might take one moment just to also inform the board. One of my primary focuses over the last couple of weeks is work with our staff. We have about 80 projects that are capital projects, bridge, safety projects, the SB1 surface treatment projects. We're doing an independent analysis of all of those, so we're able to make some more strategic recommendations on a project-by-project basis. Hopefully we'll have fewer projects that languish out there in the future, and we take a little bit more hard look at the ones that need to get done and give them the resources and get them built.
Any other board comments? If not, any public comments on this item?
I just have several questions. Is this a competitive grant that is being applied for? And who's in charge of the grant? And how much money are we anticipating?
So all very good questions. The Highway Safety Improvement Program is a competitive grant. It comes from the federal government. It's administered by Caltrans. So there's actually 3 projects that we're recommending that we apply for. One, as Supervisor Mills noted, is the left turn pocket on the O'Byrne's Ferry Road. There's also some miscellaneous guardrail and other signing striping projects sort of countywide that are being grouped together. The total amount that we're applying for across all of those is about 3.5 million.
Any other public questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
I'll move the item, Chair.
A motion by Supervisor Mills. A second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Second by Supervisor Oliveira. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 14.
Item 14 is from Behavioral Health Services Mental Health Program. Authorize the board chair to execute an agreement with Jackson & Coker for the provision of specialty mental health services, including psychiatry services, on an as-needed basis for the period of July 1, 2018 through June 30th, 2019, in an amount not to exceed $600,000.
Bonnie, your question?
I asked Kristen several questions before the meeting, and I got the answers, but I thought this was important enough to bring to the attention of the public, because we've seen a lot of money, a lot of grants going into the mental health services, and this one is a little bit different, and I think it needs to be highlighted. Thank you.
Ms. Brinks.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Kristen Brinks, Health and Human Services Agency. So this particular item before you is more of a staffing addressing a staffing need. Psychiatry services are services that we provide as the mental health plan to the community. We do not have a psychiatrist on staff, so we do have 2 contracts for accessing locums psychiatrists to provide services to our residents who have severe mental illness and meet criteria, et cetera. This is, you'll see a rather high dollar amount, that's $600,000. These are as needed. We aren't utilizing Jackson Coker currently. We administered a request for qualifications in last year. The vendors that applied and met qualifications were put onto a list. We have active contracts. We pool and add based off of need of our consumers. We monitor time to see psychiatry data and obtain additional hours as necessary. These are paid for through Medi-Cal reimbursements and local mental health realignment funds, similar to all of our other resources. A point that I just wanted to make sure the public and the board was aware of is we have these contracts, and then we also have a budget for a psychiatrist should we be able to recruit one. A number of very small rural counties, there's a lack of psychiatry providers throughout the entire state. So this is a pretty common practice, especially in small rural areas, to utilize a locums telepsychiatry service in partnership with our clinical and nursing staff that we have on site. So that's...
Supervisor Oliveira, you have a question?
Question for... Thank you very much for coming. So the funding is done by the county and reimbursed by Medi-Cal?
Yes, so the funding source is Medi-Cal reimbursements and local mental health realignment funding, not county general fund. This is part of our mental health plan services.
So on this budgeted $600,000 can or cannot be used depending on the request for services, is that correct?
Exactly. So we actually have 2 contracts with 2 different vendors. They have high dollar amounts, but they're as needed. So it's not like our budget itself is for a certain amount, about $600,000, and then we pool from those vendors based off of who has availability and who can meet our local need.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comments?
I was hoping Kristen would explain what telepsychiatry services are.
Okay. And then...
Apologies. Telepsychiatry services are utilized, as I mentioned, in hospitals and with mental health plans throughout the whole entire nation. And basically what it is an individual will go into a secure office that where personally identifiable information and HIPAA information is protected. It's done through a system where you basically have a screen and you have a psychiatrist who's sitting there with you doing an evaluation and helping to prescribe medications if needed, and then they work as part of a treatment team in partnership with the clinical outpatient services that we have, as well as our nursing staff. So it's sometimes referred to as doc in a box, but it is a way to meet a need, especially in a smaller rural county.
Any other public comments on this item? If not, I'll bring it back to the board. Any other board questions? If not, I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Supervisor Clapp.
Go ahead.
Second. Second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 15, Madam Clerk.
Item 15 is from the Auditor Controller to adopt a resolution authorizing the Auditor Controller to place delinquent and unpaid charges due to the McCollum Hill Sanitary District on the county tax roll to be billed and collected by the Treasurer Tax Collector in the same manner as property taxes, and authorize the Auditor Controller to deduct 1% of the amount billed to cover administrative costs.
Supervisor Clapp, you pulled this item.
Yeah, I asked for information on this last week, and I didn't receive it, so I'd be uncomfortable voting in support of it or against it either way until I got that information.
What was the information? You didn't reach out to me, so...
I talked to Tim.
Okay.
And so basically, my part was just on due process on it, that we're actually collecting money or putting it on a lien on the property, and were those people due process, or they're saying they owe us this much money, so we're collecting it? Is it from a court, or?
No, these are delinquent charges related to sanitary or water charges. And per the board packet, Government Code 53755 requires that that district certify to their board prior to taking it to their board that they have done all due diligence, whether it be notice of the delinquencies, a protest period for the recipient of those delinquent notices, and a hearing. And they are certifying to their district board that they have done all of that and complied with all of that, and that even after that, these 3 parcels are still delinquent. So Health and Safety Code 6520.10 says that once a district has gone through all of those, all of the requirements under the Health and Safety Code, that they can, at that point, make the determination that they want to give it to the auditor, controller, tax collector in order to put it on the roll. And when they give it to us, we shall put it on the roll. There isn't really a mechanism for us to not put it on, because they're giving it to us and they're certifying to their district in a public meeting that they've gone through all applicable due diligence. And then what this item really is doing is a courtesy to our board to let you know that these particular parcels within your district are having these delinquencies put on, but it's also to establish a administrative charge so that my office and the tax collector gets cost recovery on some of the collection process.
So then when these are paid, then they'll be paid out of TEETR fund to that district, and then we collect the funds from the TEETR, the penalties and stuff?
These will be put on as secured, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Supervisor Mills, your light's on.
Well, that just drove me to another question. Is $40 enough to cover the cost of what we're doing here?
It depends. And so we kind of, if they're very simple, we can upload them as a file. The first time we establish each district has their own tax code associated with these. So the first time, no, it probably doesn't cover it. But as the years go on, because we have these agreements with multiple sanitary districts all over the county, once those are established and set up, then it's much easier, and then I would say yes.
And you answered the question, because that was the point I was trying to get to, is those initial setup costs aren't really recoverable under this current system, and I don't know.
But then the following, the subsequent years, absolutely.
The other thing, too, is not all of the districts are participating.
Not all the districts participate. Some districts have just determined that they, well, this is a perfect example. This district specifically has tried on their own for forever. We've never had an agreement with them, and so they've always just tried to internally manage this process on their own. But at some point, they don't have any teeth anymore, and so they've just kind of gotten to that point where they're looking for other avenues of collection because they have kind of reached the limit of what they can do. So they've talked to other sanitary districts that have gone down this route and have been successful in doing this, and so that's why they've come to the table at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Olvera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming, Ms. Kellen. Unfortunately, I can't pull up the details on our board packet. How much money are we talking about?
$3,949.38, and it's on 3 separate parcels, all in McCollum Hill.
Okay. And does the tax collector, Ms. Sullivan, does she have, through fines and interest and things, is that how she funds her operations in this type of collections? Do you know?
Both my office and her office basically will share the 1% of the administrative charges on any of these agreements. And how both of our offices are funded is a myriad of ways, but one of them is through direct administrative charges associated with either direct charges, so special assessments or special district charges, delinquent charges such as these. We have a lot more, obviously, with CCWD being a much larger water and sanitary district. So we do get some revenue from there. We also get revenue through, it's under SB 2557, which is a property tax administrative fee. That's split between my office, the treasurer's office, and the lion's share goes to the assessor's office. And then outside of that, we get, my office and the treasurer's office get cost recovery through the indirect cost plan. Hers because of treasury services, mine because of accounting and payroll services, and then outside of that is general fund.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Questions? If not, I'll open it to the public. Any public questions on this item?
There was a good report for our county auditor. The only question I have, and it may have already been answered, but I'm not sure. There should be a process whereby the district directors would have a hearing or allow the delinquent customer, if they disagree with the bill or if there are charges that are not proper, to be able to have a hearing before it would go to the next stage for enforcement. I don't know if that, it may have that process, but I think we ought to make sure that it does. Thank you.
Oh, hold on, Rebecca. Bonnie, you have a question too? We can answer them all at once, I think.
I just had a couple of questions. It says sanitary district. I thought it was sewage, but it's sewage and water. Oh, is it sewage and water? And if the charges are not paid for, are the services terminated?
So part of the district certifying that they have complied with Government Code 53755 to their district board is that they are certifying that they have given appropriate notice, legal protest period, and a legal hearing to the individuals that are then being liened. So all of that had to have occurred before it comes to us. And that's what that certification process is doing. And that's why if you look at their resolution, they are, within the resolution, I think it's the third section on their resolution, they are saying that they did all of those things and that they are certifying to their district board that that occurred. As far as turning off the water and the sewer, I don't know. Yeah, you could probably answer that. And as far as if it's sanitary or if it's sewer or if it's water, that just depends on what the charges are for, and each code allows for a similar type of process in order to allow those charges to come to us.
All right. Any other public comments? Not?
It's just sanitary there. They aren't part of the water. CPUD provides water in McCallum Hill. You cannot turn off sewer in a place that creates a health hazard.
All right. Bring it back to the board.
And I can tell you, as a former director at CCWD, we did do our due diligence in bringing forth a hearing on an agendized item to discuss each one of them. And sometimes they were individual discussions. So yes, I think that the districts who present this to us go above and beyond and are very patient in working with their customers, especially with those that are in delinquent accounts, to do what they can to get them into some type of an agreement. So this is a last resort for them. And fortunately, this code exists so that we don't put them in a financial corner as a result of these delinquencies. And some smaller districts, this could be a financial problem for them. So that's why that code was developed and why there has to be more teeth at times to get people's attention.
Yeah, because each one of these delinquencies is over $1,000. So they've given ample time. And generally, when we see these are old charges. They go back quite a period of time, and there's just been no avenue of getting these paid. So This is just kind of a last resort. Otherwise, they'll bill themselves, they'll, put late charges on your own bill, but this is beyond that.
So I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
A motion by Supervisor Mills.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Garamendi. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Collins.
Moving on to item number 16.
Item 16 is from the Administrative Office to approve an agreement for forensic medical services between the County of Calaveras and Forensic Consultants Medical Group Incorporated for the period of November 1, 2017 through December 31st, 2019, and authorize the county coroner to sign the agreement.
Bonnie, you pulled this one. You have a question? And let's get them all out right now.
Try.
Okay.
Sometimes in answering, another one comes up, though. But
Wow.
I'm noticing this is a contract for a little over 2 years. How much is this contract? Where does the money come from? And what services are we receiving?
Krista, this is yours.
Okay. So as the board and others here may recall, we brought the Calaveras Mortuaries contract to the board last week. That entity provides approximately 50% of the services that are required by our coroner's office. The other half of those services are for autopsy services, and that is what this agreement addresses. During the course of staff looking into the Calaveras Mortuaries contract and through our interactions with the auditor's office, we became aware that there should have been an agreement in place previously for these services. As such, this is a retroactive contract to November 1 of 2017. It is expected to take us through December 31st of next year. In terms of funding, these are general fund dollars. These services will be in the not to exceed amount of $225,000, but I note that will be on an as-needed basis as directed by our county coroner. Did I miss anything?
Eternal funding, what did you say?
General fund.
General fund, thank you.
Any other public questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, bring it back to the board.
I'd like a question for Mr. Raggio so that he can clarify to the public. I think people need to be aware of why autopsies are needed in non-criminal cases. What are the parameters that...
An autopsy is required anytime, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. An autopsy is required anytime a person dies unattended by a physician. By unattended, I mean if a person has not seen a doctor within 20 days, that's considered an unattended death. There are a lot of cases that we look at per year. We do around 80 autopsies in Calaveras County. I look at another about 80 cases, and those don't require an autopsy. The autopsy cases are the ones that cost the county, basically. An autopsy is required, as I said, in any case that's unattended, which hasn't seen it. Well, let me go back here. It's not required in an unattended death. It's up to me. We have cases where a doctor may have seen the patient within 3, 4 months, 6 months, a year, that the doctor's comfortable with signing out, and we'll go ahead and sign out that case and not do an autopsy. But in cases of homicide, suicide, automobile accident, anything like that, we will look at and do an autopsy as required by the state of California.
Okay, we're obligated. We are obligated
Yeah,
to
we are
do them by
obligated.
law.
Unfortunately, we haven't really found a way to derive income at the coroner's office yet, but we're looking at it. But there are, and don't get me wrong on there, I'm not trying to be funny. Most of the surrounding counties charge a fee. I don't necessarily agree with charging a fee, but that's where everybody in the state has gone. If a person passes in Tuolumne County, there's a $300 plus fee that's passed on to each family over there.
Okay.
So it's charged by the county to each family.
I just see it as an opportunity to be sure the public's aware. of our obligation and your obligation to take care of this important function.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Supervisor Oliveira?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for coming, Mr. Virgil. Just briefly to answer a question brought up during public comment regarding services. Services are just not autopsy. It's actually recovery, transport.
Correct. Sometimes, some cases
Evidence maintaining.
We may have to take a case to, I take generally a couple a year to the University of California, Santa Cruz for forensic anthropological exams, and those are all done free of charge to the county, but you still have transportation to get them there and so forth.
It's a very
we may go outside of county to Sacramento, for instance, for a forensic autopsy in a complicated case. But we have to go to the scene, pick up the person, determine whether or not this person is a coroner's case indeed, and then they come back to our office and we do the investigation from there. Contact the doctor. If a doctor can't sign, then then we have to do an autopsy to determine the cause of death.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I'm looking for a motion for this item.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
A motion by Supervisor Oliveira.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, we will move on to the regular agenda, and we will start with item 21.
Item 21 is from the Planning Department to conduct a public hearing and approve an ordinance amending the zoning of APN 066-020-040 from rural commercial to two-family residential for Mark Wilson, 2018-017, located at 3554 Main Street, Vallecito.
Chair, I will be recusing myself from this particular matter as I do live across the street and could be financially impacted by the decision of the board.
Okay. Can you turn the lights off, Dennis, while you're... Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor.
Is the applicant here? Present? I guess not.
No. I do have a question for County Council. Since this is a hearing, do I need to open the hearing? Okay, so I will officially open the hearing. And you have the floor, Mr. Maurer.
Thank you. This is being presented by Miguel from our office.
Good morning to the Board of Supervisors. Miguel with the Calaveras County Planning Department. I'm here to present...
Good morning, Miguel.
Good morning. Zoning amendment for Mark Wilson, project 2018-017. The project is located in Vallecito on Main Street. This is a aerial of the subject parcel. And the project description, this is a zoning amendment for APN 66-2040, which is a 0.18 acre parcel. It wants to change its zoning from rural commercial RC to two-family residential R2. The current zoning, rural commercial, is intended to provide land for commercial use in small towns, community centers, and isolated areas, whereas the proposed zoning R2 is designed to provide land for a conventional duplex or single-family attached housing, which will be individually owned. General plan consistency. So, current land use designation, it's the parcel is in the Vallecito Community Center. The proposed zoning is compatible with the land use designation, and in the general plan update, it's in the Historic Center, which is also compatible with the land use. The parcel itself, it's developed with a structure and two storage shed. It does have district water and district sewer. No new developments proposed. Only interior modifications to convert the existing building into a duplex, and it must comply with current building and fire codes. This is a image of the subject parcel from Main Street, Vallecito. Compatibility with surrounding area. The proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area. The majority of the uses in the surrounding area are residential. The surrounding zones are unclassified and rural commercial. Here's a map that depicts the parcel in relation to its neighbors, highlighted with a star. As you can see, the majority of the parcels are unclassified, with a few RCs, rural commercial, scattered. But even those are used as residential. So in conclusion, this two-family resident, it's trying to get a two-family residential zoning. It's consistent with the general plan. It's compatible with the surrounding area. It's encouraged by the general plan and zoning code. It's consistent with the general plan update. Allows more opportunity for housing. It's categorically exempt from CEQA by section 1530.3.b. So staff recommends approval of the ordinance. Any questions?
Any board questions?
I do.
Yes.
Now, you were saying that there's going to be a duplex, but each unit will be owned differently by individuals, so is it a subdivision then?
No, it's certainly not a subdivision. It's the purpose of the R2 zone is to provide land for duplexes or attached housing, which each unit it's individually owned. In this case, it's going to be a duplex owned by one person and rented out as a duplex.
So it'll be like a condominium then?
More like a duplex, because the whole structure will be owned by one person, not individually owned.
Oh, so one person will own the whole project?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, Gail, when you spoke of the general plan and it's consistent with the general plan, then the general plan is going to address all the unclassified that's surrounding this property?
After the general plan is adopted, the next step in the process will be to update the zoning map, and my intent would be to eliminate the unclassified zone. That's something that's been on the county's task list for a number of years.
Yes, it has.
And so the unclassified zone is intended to go away. It's considered a temporary holding zone right now, and so we'd be looking at all those unclassified zones and zoning them appropriately. In this case, mostly would be either single-family residential or R2.
Most of those parcels are single-family
Yes,
right now,
they are.
residents, yeah, so.
And this was a duplex initially, and then it was changed to an office some time ago, and they're wanting to convert it back to a duplex.
Any public comments on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Any other board comments or
Mr.
questions?
Chair, I have a couple of comments, a couple of questions. This has not been brought before the Planning Commission, has it?
It has.
It has. And their recommendation?
Recommendation is approval.
Okay. And was the notice sent out properly to the neighborhood
It was.
regarding this?
It was.
And was there any negative responses?
No negative responses. There's no responses at all, really, from any neighbors.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So, that being said, any other questions? Supervisor Clapp, your light's on. Does that mean you want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to move it.
A motion by Supervisor Clapp. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Second by Supervisor Oliveira. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0 with one abstention. Thank you, Miguel.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item number 22. Supervisor Clapp, you want to ask Supervisor Mills to come in? Maybe you left campus. All right, Madam Clerk, item number 22.
Item 22 is from the Planning Department to conduct a public hearing, adopt mitigated negative declaration, and adopt an ordinance amending the zoning of APN 030-010-058 from general commercial plan development to business park plan development for Matthew Greenberg, located at 5146 Commercial Way, Hathaway Pines. Authorize publication of brief description and map of reclassified property.
Mr. Maurer?
All right.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I have a disclosure before we hear this. I am actually a customer of the appellant, although I have no financial interest whatsoever in this property, but I do rent from him as far as a storage unit.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for that disclosure.
Okay. Good morning, board. As previously mentioned, this is a presentation to amend the zoning for Matthew Greenberg. This is Planning Project 2016-016 to change the parcel from general commercial plan development to business park plan development. The site is currently developed and in the spirit of full disclosure, like Supervisor Oliveira just said, this application, originally when it was applied for, it was for the possibility of future cannabis production. However, they waited for the project to move forward to see what would happen in the county. After the subsequent ban, the application was amended just for permitted M4 uses, as the applicant feels that that is a better use of the property than the current C2 zoning. It is located at 5146 Commercial Way in Hathaway Pines, as you can see here on the map. Here is an aerial of the property. You can see that there is an existing building and parking lot. Site is developed with a 5,600 square foot building, 10,000 square feet of paved parking. The adjacent parcels are zoned M4 PD to the east and west of the property, and the remaining parcels on Commercial Way are zoned C2 PD. Here are some pictures of what currently exists in the property. As you can see, there's the structure there, parking area here. In the general plan, in the Avery Hathaway Pines Community Plan, it is designated as industrial. The commercial plan refers to Commercial Way as a light industrial area and is having a primarily industrial identity. The community plan further singles out the exact location of the subject parcel, stating that Commercial Way terminates in an isolated area suitable for light industrial and automotive service activities. General plan further states that compatible zoning in the industrial designation is TP, PS, M1, and M4. C2, its current zone, is not listed as being compatible with the general plan. As far as zoning is concerned, the general plan also lists that all industrial property in the Avery Hathaway Pines industrial area needs to have a PD overlay. So that was a condition in doing the environmental report, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Here is the current zoning of the area. As you can see, Commercial Way is a mix of M4 PD and C2 PD. We did perform a CEQA analysis. Initial studies prepared according to CEQA guidelines. All proper notice was given to adjacent landowners and the general public. It is a mitigative negative declaration under the planning, the land use portion of the initial study, addressed whether it was compatible with the general plan. In order to be fully compatible with the general plan, like I said earlier, we had to make sure that the PD overlay was attached to the parcel. There were no objections or concerns received. The only letters we got were standard departmental, governmental responses saying that no one had any problem with the change in zoning. As a result, we brought this forward to the Planning Commission. We held a hearing on July 12th. The Planning Commission unanimously passed the resolution to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they adopt the negative declaration and to approve the zoning amendment. And that brings us here, and we recommend that the board does adopt the mitigated negative declaration and adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning of this property from general commercial plan development to business park plan development.
Any board questions? Supervisor Mills.
I do have a question about PD. If in the general plan update, the board decides to remove the plan development from this area, would all of those parcels then lose the PD designation, or would it be on a case-by-case basis?
It would, excuse me, Peter Maurer, Planning Director, it would be on a case-by-case basis. That would be a subsequent zoning amendment in and of itself. So the plan development combining zone is a zoning designation, and to remove the PD zoning would have to go through a hearing process to amend that, to remove the PD.
At the expense of each landowner that wanted to do it?
Either that, or if the county decided that it was no longer necessary to have the PD, the county could initiate a zoning amendment to remove the PD from a general area, say from a community.
Okay, that answers the question. Thank you.
Any other board questions? Has this this property been rezoned before, or is this the first time that you know that it's been?
I don't know the history of the zoning. It has been that way since the adoption of the Avery Hathaway Pines Community Plan. I don't know what it was before then. And that plan was adopted 25 years ago, perhaps?
1998.
1998.
And M4 is the heaviest industrial
M4
zone.
is our business park zone. The C2 is actually the heavier industrial, or the M2 is our heavy industrial. The M4 is actually a combination of commercial and light industrial uses, i.e. business park.
Okay. Is there any public comments on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Any further questions or comments or a motion?
Comment before a motion, Mr. Chair. I'm familiar with the applicant and how he runs his operations on Commercial Way. And I'm very impressed that he follows the rules and gets things done. He's a stellar businessman, and I would recommend that we take that into account. Having said that, I would make a motion to approve this.
I have a motion by Supervisor Oliveira. Do I have a second? I have a second by Supervisor Clapp. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 23. This is also planning.
Item 23 is to conduct a public hearing, find project exempt from CEQA, and adopt zoning ordinance amendment 2018-038 ZA to amend Chapter 17.94, changing the way planning fees are adopted from ordinance to resolution of the Board of Supervisors, authorized publication of summary ordinance.
Mr. Maurer?
Yes, good morning. Peter Maurer, Planning Director. This is a really sort of a cleanup ordinance. I'm working on a revision to our fees, and looking at the ordinance came across sort of an anomaly where the title of the section says fees adopted by resolution, but the ordinance itself says it's to be adopted by an ordinance. Our practice has been, at least for the last two fee amendments or fee revisions, they weren't actually adopted by resolution, and most other fees are adopted by resolution. So this ordinance would be to clean up that language, make it clear that fees, which they are typically adopted by resolution, state law allows them to be adopted by either a resolution or an ordinance. But this would clearly state that it would be adopted by a resolution rather than ordinance. The other change in it is that it listed some specific types of applications, but not all of our applications. So this would just say, any applications where a fee is appropriate, the fee would be adopted by the resolution. The procedure for noticing the public and hearing process really doesn't change. It's just sort of the more technical aspect of the adoption of those fees. And so we recommend, and the Planning Commission reviewed this and unanimously recommended approval.
Any board comments? Supervisor Mills, your light's on.
Oh, my apologies.
No board comments or questions? Open to the public. Any public questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. I look for a motion.
I approve the item.
I have a motion by Supervisor Clapp. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Supervisor Mills. Call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 24. This is also planning.
Item 24 is to conduct a public hearing, find project exempt from CEQA, and adopt zoning ordinance amendment 2018-043 to amend Chapter 17.93 Post-Disaster Recovery Ordinance to allow for additional extensions of the time in which the ordinance provisions may apply. Authorized publication of ordinance summary.
I'll open the public hearing on this item.
Peter Maurigan from Planning. So in the wake of the Butte fire, the county adopted an urgency ordinance that was intended to provide cleanup and opportunities for those who are affected by the disaster to have temporary facilities on their property so they could recover from the disaster. 2 years later, that ordinance became permanent as the county adopted the permanent provision of the code, so that in event, heaven forbid, there's another disaster that strikes the county, those provisions would already be in place. And so we'd have the ability to clean up from the disaster, as well as provide opportunities for homeowners to stay on their property while rebuilding. The provisions of that ordinance allowed for those special provisions to stay in place for 2 years with one extension for a total of 3 years. What we found is that there have been a number of delays caused outside the control of the property owners, and that there still is a need to have people living in temporary facilities on their property until they can finally rebuild. This ordinance would change that 3-year maximum to sort of an ongoing additional year based on a resolution from the board. So the next step, once this ordinance becomes effective 30 days from today, assuming you adopt it, would be that the board would need to pass a resolution to extend the provisions of the ordinance for the Butte fire and for victims of the Butte fire so that they continue to take advantage of the provisions of the ordinance. So there were a couple sections in the code that specifically referred to the 2-year expiration for temporary facilities. This would just refer back to whatever the time frame is that's established by the board through an action in a public hearing with findings that there still is a need for these provisions to be in place. The Planning Commission reviewed this and supported it, recommended approval of this ordinance amendment. Do you have any questions?
Any board questions? Supervisor Mills?
I'm thinking in a larger perspective of not just Butte fire, but let's put this into another major disaster.
Right.
Is there a policy that we can develop within our county that when you have delays beyond the care and control of the property owner, that we could simply have a statement that says as long as those delays are in place, that we don't have to come back to the board and be discussing extensions and modifications to existing ordinance, but we have just a blank policy in place that would cover those kind of situations?
You could certainly do that. The reason why the ordinance is crafted the way it is I think that it's really the board's decision to make that, whether, otherwise it would be, some staff person, a department head, the CAO, I don't know who that would be, making that sort of unilateral decision without the benefit of public input. There could be reasons why it shouldn't be extended. I think in most cases it would be. And I think in this case, there's a good reason for it. By having the ordinance in place now, all we need is, one, the declaration of the emergency, and it automatically becomes effective. After 2 years, a simple resolution of the board says, yes, we still need these provisions in place. Let's continue to have these.
So let's say, for instance, and I know Michelle's in the audience, so I appreciate her being here, is that the declaration of emergency is just pulled. There are agencies that could do that. So here you have a situation where we don't have clear policy, and I'm just asking that maybe the board have that discussion about looking at a broader policy to take care of, and we could discuss, maybe some of the details that would be delays outside of the control of the property owner, but where those exist, to be constantly or to be thinking about a specific disaster, be looking at it in a larger perspective of any disaster to which the property owner suffers financial loss or suffers an inability to live on that property. And do we want them in a constant concern about how quickly do I need to get this done and how do I get it done, and what are you controlling me with, rather than giving them the freedom and the latitude to do what they can do without having to justify every action that they take on that property to bringing normalcy back to their life. So I would like to see this, I agree with what you're doing here, but I would like to see this as a broader policy discussion on any disaster in this county, and maybe to some degree become a model for other counties in the state as well who are suffering devastating fires right now, to say, how do we as counties, and this is maybe something for our CRC to look at, how do counties respond on a broad policy to how to keep people on their property, keep their lives to some degree of normalcy, because that is the foundation of who they are to some degree, and be looking at that in a broader perspective. I see Jack thinking about it here.
Well, Dennis, to your point, I too support this, obviously, but it would be fine to have a conversation. I want to just be very specific, natural disasters and things like that. I don't want suddenly, 2008's coming around again, and that's a disaster that impacts all of us. But that's different, so I'd want to be very specific.
I absolutely agree. I think it has to be natural disaster related, of which these people have literally been removed from their homes, their livelihoods, etc. And how do we as counties respond positively to helping and assisting our residents to regaining normalcy? That's really what it's all about.
Supervisor Clapp, your light's on. You have a comment? I understand what you're saying, Dennis, and I would be open for that conversation, but I'm looking at where this disaster happened is a rural area where the lots are very large. You have a disaster, a natural disaster in, say, Gold Creek Estates, where the houses are right next to each other. Then you have to go into some type of different way of looking at it, because you can't, their whole lot is burned. You can't just have them put something up over the top of a burned out house. It has to be cleaned up and so forth and going forward. So I think it may be in the fact that each individual disaster may have to be looked at the board on what conditions brought through planning or the building department or OES to handle the situation as it occurs. So those are my comments. Any other board comments? If not, I'll open to the public comments.
I'm in the burn scar in a trailer, and it could be in 10 days. I'm supposed to be gone, or 2 weeks or something. And I appreciate the attention to the normalcy question. One of the things that would make a difference to me is if this is something like it looks like the way it's said, each year that has to be extended. Now, right now, it gives me less than a month. So if you do it next year, again, it'll be less than a month. So I really would like to have it extended. Each year you're extending it 2 years out, so that I have a year to get my affairs in order and know that I have that much time. I'll just say it that way. I think there's something else I have to say, but right now, that's where I am, so I'm going to stop.
Any other public comments?
Yeah, and good morning. And thanks, Supervisor Mills. I don't every day find myself wholeheartedly agreeing with everything you said. In this case, I do. And I agree with Sue, who just spoke. Being a person in that position, if you didn't adopt this today, like she said, that would give us 3 weeks to completely uproot ourselves, change our lives, create new lives and livelihoods out of nothing, and that's pretty ridiculously impossible. If it wasn't clear, if you did in the future amend that language to make it a 2-year extension, which you adopted renewed a year in advance of its expiration, that would give everybody a whole year, which would lend a lot more comfort to people who aren't always sitting on the edge of our seats wondering if next week we get a 10-day abatement notice blanket the whole area. That would really suck. So thanks for this amendment and taking it up, and I would encourage you to consider in the future trying to make it a little bit longer lived so that people can make plans and feel like they're secure in their homes. Thanks.
I think it's important to give people more time. I'm aware of several families that have yet to get a Butte Fire settlement. They have nowhere to go. They have no money. And so I think we need to give people as much time as possible to get through the maze of building permits. It's just such a headache trying to build in this county. And the more time you can give people, the better. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Allen Taxpayer Association. I think we concur. 2 years seems reasonable.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll close public comments and hearings, bring it back to the board. Supervisor Mills.
Mr. Maurer, how many are we talking about? How many affected parcels in the burn scar are we really talking about?
I don't know the number. Maybe Supervisor Garamendi has those numbers more readily at hand. I know there were over 500 homes that were lost. In many cases, they chose not to rebuild, but I know that there are a number of people, and I would say there's probably, I'm guessing, several hundred.
Do you think
I think that's probably correct. I think, and obviously our house number has been debated. That might have been a bit low. A lot of structures that went down were unpermitted houses or places where people were living. So I would agree with Peter, several hundred.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have comments. Question. What are exactly the roadblocks we're facing with these folks? I mean, is this a settlement with insurance companies, settlement with any litigation? What can we do to remove those roadblocks?
That's probably outside the topic of conversation here.
I know.
But the reason for needing more time is, as you suggested, that there were insurance delays, litigation against PG&E, any number of other potential delays. In some cases, people were able to rebuild right away. They had good insurance, they paid right away, and the money was there. But in other cases, it's been much more of a struggle. And again, this is an ordinance that would apply not just to the Butte Fire, but to any and all future disasters as well. It could be a flood, it could be another fire, it could be, I don't know, some other, maybe a human-caused disaster. So we would need to look at sort of each case on a case-by-case basis as to how much time is necessary. But I think that what we found is that more than 3 years is appropriate. In some cases, it may only be 2 years, and we don't need to extend it beyond that. I think we could probably certainly make a decision that we need more time earlier in the time frame. So 6 months out, let's bring a resolution back to the board to say we're going to need more time. You know, people are still just trying to get building permit plans drawn, let alone constructed into their homes. And so we're sort of in a crunch right now for a variety of reasons. The time runs out in September. We need to have this in place so that we can extend it for individuals who are in this dire circumstance. But in the future, if, say, next April or so, we say, you know, it's going to take more than 6 months for people to finish up, we could certainly extend the provisions of this ordinance for earlier in advance to give people, an understanding that they have more time.
I'm sorry, Peter. Mike, to your question, I mean, representing this community, the variety of reasons that are impacting people is as diverse as our landscape around here. For every person, there's a reason and experience stemming from this trauma, be it insurance settlement, or some people are quick movers in building houses, some people are not. There's financial obstacles. You're only limited by the amount of people and the experiences, but so there's no one block, there's thousands of them.
The reason I asked that question is there something we can do as a county to help that process along? Is a snag on the county level? Obviously, it's on a different level as far as reimbursements of insurance and lawsuits and stuff like that. I'm just trying to help these folks and get going on their new journey in life.
I certainly think that doing this, and to Peter's point, we'll get ahead of it next year if we still feel we need time, so we don't jam up our citizens and they have some lead time, is very important, and it's appreciated by the community that this board's willing to take this action. There's a lot of pieces to the renewal of the community. The county taking an active role last week in the Community Safety Center. All these things are bricks in rebuilding the structure of people's lives. So it's appreciated what the board's doing. Thank you.
Supervisor Mills?
Would the board consider then a possibility of inserting within this ordinance, if not a 2-year extension, to insert that we will 6 months before the time runs out, be sure that it's back in front of the board for consideration of a future extension so that people have a more clarity in what's going to happen. We're not pushing them up against that unknown timeline.
I think that might be a good idea, but I know that because we're going to have this little couple-day gap in here already, I don't know if any amendment would change any time rollout. I know certainly Peter and I are going to be watching this next spring, make sure we're 6 months out. But
we have the ability to place an extension on the agenda at any time. It's not established in the code when it goes on the board's agenda. I don't think it's necessary to have that in the ordinance.
No, more to the point of just maybe to instruct staff from a board level that this is what our desire is. That if we need to do this, we need to get into that 6-month window and not be pushed right up to that deadline.
Right.
Right. And part of that falls on staff and myself. This one got ahead of us. Okay. I thank the community for reminding us, because this was a big one.
Was there, I saw Julie walk in, was there something you wanted
just if there are significant changes made to the ordinance, by law it has to be referred back to the Planning Commission. So I would say let's keep it the way it is right now so we can get it adopted and get it effective in time. Otherwise, we're talking about several months delay, and that will...
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
We don't want to do that.
We don't want to do that. So that being said, I'm looking for a motion.
So move.
A motion by Supervisor Garamendi.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Mills. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Could we take a 5-minute break to
We
allow
can
for
take a
the
5-minute break.
presentation to be set up?
We will take 5 minutes. All right, we're back from break. Madam Clerk, item number 26.
Item number 25
Excuse me.
is from
Item 25, we've
the
already done
Office of
26.
Emergency Services to receive an update on disaster recovery activity throughout Calaveras County for Butte Fire 2015, tree mortality 2015, and winter storms 2017.
Good morning, Board. Michelle Patterson, Director, Office of Emergency Services. Just going to hand these here. All right. I officially stand between you and hungry tummies, so here we go. All right. Like Diane said, this is to go over Butte Fire, winter storm, and tree mortality. This is not on, but there we go. Okay. Updates. So again, I'll just have you sort of focus on the bold type as we go through this. PW 78 was the removal of the remaining 1,545 trees, which we've referred to as the green trees. We are still waiting on a response from FEMA on that. I was just at Cal OES on Friday, and they don't have a response from FEMA yet. So we're keeping track of that one weekly. PW 99, again, this is as soon as we're able to take down the remaining trees, this project will also be completed. Good news.
All right.
PW 88, all of the roads identified under PW 88 in the Butte Fire area have been completed. This was a major effort by Public Works, by administration, by my office, by Jeremy, by Scott, by Matt. There was a big push, big effort to get this project completed early. We started on June 25th and concluded on August 3rd. With the final striping of the remaining roads. So I want to extend extensive appreciation to all of those that were involved in this project. It looks great, so. Got one off the list. These FHWA roads, all of our packages have been submitted, and again, we're waiting for FHWA to respond to our extension request, but we continue to push forward on that. Blagan Bridge, the update with this one is that we received bids for the hydrology study on this one on last week, and we chose a vendor, and so the contract is in process with that vendor. We anticipate that within the next few weeks, we will have a product that we can go ahead and send to Cal OES and FEMA to review, and we can move forward on that project. Gwen Mine, the update on this one is that Jeremy and I missed some really convenient fine print in that we were able to file a CEQA NOE on this one, which clears tomorrow. So the engineering RFP it's been drafted, it's in process to be released, so we can get the engineering study done on the 4 sites as this board and my staff have discussed. This is a very complicated project, but we will get through it. Murphy's Drive Culvert Crossing, the same RFP that went out for the Blagan Bridge hydro study also was in the Murphy's Drive project was in that as well, and so again, same vendor, contract in process. As soon as we have that product, off it goes to FEMA, and we will move forward with that. Pennsylvania Gulch, here's another one, crossed off the list. This one was finished last week, I believe. So again, this was a big thanks to the roads department and Public Works and everybody that was involved in getting this one complete from our staff. Canyon View, again, we were able to file the CEQA NOE on this one, so that one clears tomorrow, and the studies are, the RFPs for the engineering studies are being drafted. Harbor Road, we filed the CEQA NOE on July 24th, and we're in our 35-day waiting period for that one. CSA 4, Diamond 20, this is, I believe, going to be done this week, but if not this week, then it will be completed by next week. With that, we have FHWA roads that were also impacted. All of the documents necessary for those roads have been forwarded to Caltrans for FHWA review, and so we are just waiting for them to come back and provide us with the preliminary engineering go-ahead. I forget what it's called. The E76 PE. They need to give us an E76 PE on those ones, and we'll be able to do those. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Tad Mason to discuss tree mortality.
Morning. This is the monthly update on the tree mortality program. Of course, we have 13 projects in play. Several have been completed. First up is Pine Brook, Project 1A, that has been completed, looking at 57 trees removed, over 30 parcels. Project 2, Blue Lake Springs, Flying Acres. That project is wrapping up now, and we have a little over 350 trees removed on 163 parcels. Project 3, Blue Lake Springs, Grizzly Peak, Flying Acres. That is a pretty large project. It's 60 parcels, looking at 164 trees, and that is almost completed. Will be done this week. Project 4 is Big Trees Village. Contract award is currently in process, so the ITB, invitation to bid, was floated. We received numerous responses, and right now it's in contracting to award that contract, and then we will implement. 3A, Blue Lake Springs, which is 14, 15, and 16. This is a smaller project. What we wanted to do is put up a couple of small projects so that local tree service companies can bid on these. So at the request of some local contractors, we've done that, and that's basically what 3A is. It's a little bit less than 50 trees over 27 parcels. So we're setting that up, and that should be out here soon. 4A is a large project, over 750 trees, basically on 69 parcels, Big Trees Village North and Sky High Ranch. We want to get this done this year before the snow flies because of elevation, and that is currently an invitation to bid package that contracting also has, and hopefully they'll have that up soon for on public purchase. Project 5, which is Meadowmont, Lakemont, White Pines. We've got ROEs out and currently have 152 responses out of 237 parcels. West Point is Project 6. We have 159 ROEs out. Not a real strong response yet, but with our town hall meeting planned for August 23rd, we're working closely with Supervisor Garamendi and Michelle to make that happen. We're hoping for better response. So that community meeting I'll talk a little bit more about later. Skunk Ranch Road, the county was contacted by residents along Skunk Ranch Road about some imminent hazard trees that they were concerned about, so we went ahead and put together a quick project, just 43 trees on 4 parcels, because there is concern about those trees coming down. In the past, there has been hazard trees hitting the road, so we're trying to get out and address those as those come up. We are anticipating to see more of these type projects with the existing tree mortality and the time frame since the drought and the bug kill. These trees are starting to fall apart. So as these projects come up, we're coordinating closely with Michelle and Jeremy to make sure that we get those projects out as quickly as possible, addressing those safety concerns. So Skunk Ranch Road is an example of that. That is also with contracting right now, waiting to put up a invitation to bid on public purchase. Next is Murphy's Avery project. We're working on right of entry forms to be sent out. So that's coming along. Project 8 is Glencoe, Wilseyville, Railroad Flat, Moke Hill. Working on first visits there. Project 9, BLM. lands, because those are fairly remote and not in amongst HOAs or residential areas, working with Michelle, we've put that project back, and have moved forward with Project 10, which is Forest Service, which is a large-scale project over in the Arnold area, primarily on the Calaveras Ranger District, and we're going to go ahead and start implementing that. In fact, we're meeting today with the Forest Service at 3 o'clock. So that's in a nutshell the 13 projects. Basically, 3 have been completed. We have another 10 in the hopper that are coming along. Any questions?
Supervisor Mills?
I do have a question. It has to do with the master stewardship agreement that we're working on with staff. And is that something that we're going to be able to get done this year and get it in the hopper? Because that will give us just a tremendous additional piece of leverage for funding opportunities with the state, which the federal government can't touch. So
right.
It isn't so much a question as a comment of how important that master stewardship. Look what Tuolumne County's done with theirs, and they just got another grant. So, the money is there. It's just we've got to be able to participate on the same national forest as they're participating, only in our area, to help them to get done the job they don't have the manpower or the financing available to do.
And I would concur, Supervisor, that master stewardship agreements have a place, absolutely, when we're talking about federal lands. I assume that the MSA you have in mind is focused Forest Service and BLM?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
good. And within the county, obviously. And we've seen that leveraged in other parts of the country. MSA is very successful. It does require some cost share funding. And I assume, Supervisor, that's where you're discussing state participation?
Correct.
Ted, Dennis is correct. The MSA that we're currently working under with ACCG and UMRA is having great success going up the Highway 4 corridor with the Forest Service lines. But my question is, any problem, these tree mortality funds are state funds, using them on federal, we good?
We are good.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
No problem.
We are good.
Okay.
And we've done this in other counties. And,
okay.
We know it's good.
Just got to ask.
No, good.
Supervisor Oliveira?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tad, doing a great job. I have to be a little biased here. You're doing a great job in District 3. Thank you. I do have one small detail. After attending the Forest Management and Health meeting in Sacramento yesterday, the information they have as far as Calaveras County is number of trees down is not reflective of what we've done, so we need to update that. And I think you handled that, Michelle.
Yeah, Kristen Merrill usually reaches out to the counties before those meetings.
I mean, they had you like about 465 trees, and I know there's a lot more than that.
Not a lot more than that. Seriously, I think we're approaching 500.
Then we better start firing up the chainsaws.
Well, that leads us to the next slide.
Good.
Very good point, Supervisor. We are increasing staffing. Considering the imminent hazard situation, Skunk Ranch Road as an example, again, working with Michelle, we are ramping up our staff to get out there and get more of these trees assessed.
Good.
So we're coming up on 6 foresters now in the field. Right. So just a heads up on that. As far as outreach go, the town hall meeting coming up on August 23rd is our real focus for the next week or so, working with Supervisor Garamendi to pull that together and Michelle. 2 other things, the other counties are also having issues securing right of entry forms signed, so we're not the only game in town that's having those issues. But what we've learned from working with the other counties is outreach. Just continue to do strong outreach, keep a good website up to date, for example, work with the local media. So we have a banner in downtown West Point right now. That banner has moved from Arnold to West Point. We'll look for a place in Murphy or Avery or Moke Hill to put it up. But the banner is getting some response, which is good. So we're pretty pleased. And then lastly, these tree failures are a concern. And we're coordinating amongst our foresters and OES on this, but they will continue. and we are seeing additional mortality, especially in the higher elevations with the true-fir, the cedar, and some madrones, interestingly enough. So we don't see this dynamic going away anytime soon. It is continuing. Just a heads up.
Thank you.
Can't say it enough. We really need people to sign up for Calaveras Alert so that we can alert them of emergencies in progress. And with that, questions?
Any more
All
questions?
the lights go on.
If not, I'll open to public. Any public questions or comments? Seeing none, bring it back to the board. Supervisor Garamendi, your light's on.
I just want to say, the standardized format where we're looking at the same thing every month and then the updates really makes this a much more efficient briefing. Because we could just track it. And so I appreciate the format that you're giving us this data. Thank you.
Great.
I'll have to agree.
My pleasure.
Yes, very nice. And with that, this was an informational item, so thank you, Michelle, for your presentation. And we will move on to item number 27. Madam Clerk.
Item 27 is from the Board of Supervisors, appointment of applicants to serve on various committees, commissions, advisory boards, and county service areas. So before you today, we have a couple of appointments. The first is for one vacancy on the Fish and Game Commission for a term ending 12/31/2018. For a member in District 1, we have one application from Ashley Skeen. We have another vacancy, or a vacancy on the IHSS Advisory Committee for a general public member with the term ending 12/31/2019. We have two applications for that position. One is from Wayne Gonzalez and one is from Danielle Maxwell. If you would like to, clearly you're going to have to do them probably separately.
Yeah, we'll have to do them separately because of the second one. So I'm looking for a motion for the Fish and Game appointment.
I'd make that motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have to open it for public comments. Or any public comments? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. We'll go on to the next one.
So if I could just add the applications that we have. The application from Danielle Maxwell, you know her, she has come to several board meetings. The other is from Wayne Gonzalez, and I think that for clarity purposes, it is important to note that his wife is currently a general public representative on the IHSS Advisory Committee.
Supervisor Garamendi, this is your committee, so do you have any recommendation? Do you know?
Sure. I mean, neither of these people live in my district, so I don't represent them, but I do serve on the committee. They're both really good people, and they've been, Wayne has not been a member of the board, but he shows up. His wife is a great member of the board as well. Danielle is obviously her son, JJ. We've met him before, and one of the things that intrigues me is that she, we don't have a lot of representatives who can speak for a large portion of our clientele, our youth. And so having a voice for them and their special needs is something that she's brought to several meetings that I've frankly been pretty impressed with. Hopefully we might have another general public position open here in a little bit. Both of them have different strengths. Just because I'm trying to find a way to have those disabled youth have a voice. For example, they're not 18, so they can't qualify to the board as a consumer. The statute doesn't allow their guardian, who's their legal spokesperson, to serve on the board as a consumer. So there's a problem with the statute in achieving its goals. So I'd probably, just to add to the diversity of voices around the table, suggest Danielle at this time. No offense to Wayne, and the next one that opens up, I certainly hope he would apply.
That being said, Supervisor Clapp, your light's on. Any other comments?
You served on it, Clyde.
He actually lives down the street from me.
Oh, okay, so he's your constituent, so you should
Yes,
have a
I
voice.
phoned him up and thanked him for applying, because we have a hard time getting people to volunteer. And so I really appreciate that he did take the time to do it, and hopefully that he will continue to apply. So, and I'll reach out to him and let him know that too.
Please do. You know, I was talking with our chairwoman, Bonnie, about spots that might be open shortly, and, you know, Wayne would be great.
Any public comments on this item?
I'd just like to repeat what Mr. Garamendi said. Both candidates are providers to the IHSS program, and both have attended meetings, Danielle more than Wayne has. But I would like to also reiterate once again that we need past or present consumers of personal care services to step forward and be in our committee. We are down 3 members right now who are past or present consumers. So each of you look to your district, to your constituents, and please try to find somebody who has received services in their home, personal care services, including housekeeping and transportation, that qualifies people to remain in their homes and not be placed in a facility. So that's our biggest need. And as Jack said, if we have, this will fill out our non-consumer positions, but we still have 3 consumer positions that we are desperately in need of hearing their voices. So thank you for your consideration.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
You have to name which.
I'm sorry, Danielle Maxwell.
Okay, we have a motion to accept Daniel Maxwell. I have a second.
Second.
A second by Supervisor Garamendi. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to supervisor announcements.
In compliance with AB 1234, Chapter to Government Code Section 53232.3D, board members shall provide brief reports on meetings they attended at the expense of the local agency at the next regular meeting of the legislative body. This report is required to include meetings attended for which there has been expense reimbursement, such as mileage, meals, lodging, etc., but may also, at the board member's discretion, include any other meeting attended by the supervisor on behalf of the county.
We will start with Supervisor Garamendi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It's been a busy couple weeks. Thank you very much for joining me down in Sacramento to deal with the inverse combination debates with Pacific Gas and electricity. And I think we did some good work down there. It was fun working the halls of the Capitol with you. I was down there again yesterday with RCRC on forest health issues, not just inverse combination, but there is a committee underway that our board should be aware of where they're taking on in this short session forest health and fire risks. A lot of the debate is around inverse condemnation. So what RCRC is really pushing is, let's just not think about the point of ignition. Let's think about the fuel loads. Let's think about everything else that burns. And we could have the debate about the point of ignition. But if there's less to burn, fires will be less severe. So we're trying to get these committees in the Assembly and Senate to focus back on healthy forests. We have not seen what the piece of legislation looks like yet. Expect it to be released tomorrow. We did 13 meetings yesterday, so it was a busy day, but things that we need to be aware of that are being talked about beyond inverse condemnation is vegetation management plans and some possible rules that could be coming down to the county. We are making the case that do not put new rules on us if that doesn't come with money. We can't ask people just to do things that they can't afford and we can't afford. Continuing to increase the pace and scale. They are very pleased with, and we have a great example of the work that's going on up on the Highway 4 corridor and cleaning up those forests as you drive up there. I'm trying to explain to our urban legislators that if you walk through that work, you will be impressed. It is beautiful, and we all need to be aware that things that we think are self-evident because we live here are not self-evident to people who are not from this area. So where I might say the trees are overgrown, some people might say every tree is sacred. So we have some education to do. We're also talking down there about, or I certainly was about, that this is not just about cleaning up our forests, but we have an economic development tool here. So how can we work within state laws for local preference hires so we can build our economy here, and maybe they're grasping what we're talking about and some of our issues about access to capital for building our local economy, trying to explain to them the cost of a masticator or a truck, and that people need capital through Cal Recycles or other loan vehicles, so they don't have to risk their entire house if they've got a house, and trying to build our economy. So I don't know how that was taken, but we did a lot of meetings. I'm going back down to RCRC on Wednesday, and after the morning meeting, I will spend the afternoon again trying to lobby urban legislators about the needs of the forest. We don't have any problems with our rural legislators. And those don't cost the county anything. Fortunately, I drive a Prius, so I'm not running up the costs too high for the county. One thing, Mr. Chair, I was hoping I could talk to the board about and see whether there's much interest. There continues to be a lot of confusion around 8.06 and our discussion that we had at this board and the direction we may have given to staff and when they're supposed to see the fees and when we're supposed to do the town halls. And frankly, I'm a little confused about what our outcomes are. And I didn't know whether the board wanted, for clarification, I don't want to start the whole parade again.
Well, we have to be careful here.
Yeah. But this is just a polling to see if there's interest for further discussion, or whether I might be the only one confused, in which case you all can educate me and I'll move forward.
So your question specifically
Question is, do we want to talk about this some more before we start rolling out town halls, before we have the fee schedule and have seen? My understanding was the fee schedule was going to come to us and we were going to talk about it and then we were going to move forward. And just want to see if we want to have continued conversation. Am I safe, County Council? Close? Okay.
You want to chime in?
I just wanted to remind everyone that you cannot have substantive discussion on things that are not on the agenda. I understand that your desire is to poll the board on directing staff to bring an item back for future consideration, and that being a discussion on the process moving forward with 8.06, the town halls, et cetera. Is that what, am I hearing you correctly?
Just for a discussion item, so we could actually discuss it as a board, because I know we can't do it other places, so. And it may be that I'm the only one that's confused.
Does the board understand what they're being polled on?
Oh, I understand.
Am I the only one confused, Mike?
No, I'll join you being confusion. But I do know, I know we have to be very careful on agendized items.
And I don't want to start the whole thing over again. I just wanted to have a conversation that we're all on the same page. And unfortunately, this is the only way we get to do it.
So Supervisor Clapp.
Well, my understanding is that we were wanting to have town hall meetings to have that discussion so people could be more involved in it. So is it not to have the town hall meetings?
No, I'm for the town hall meetings. I just didn't know whether we needed to see the whole package and then talk about it with the fee schedules attached to it. I mean, like I said, I may be the only one confused what the order of things are.
Supervisor Mills, do you want to?
Yeah, I thought that the whole goal here was to receive more input from the public regarding the matter, and when I made the motion to direct, that's what that was all about. If we want to drag this back and have a more, I don't know, larger discussion on directing staff to do something.
Yeah, see, I was confused because I assumed that what we were talking about was that we were going to see the fee schedule, look at the whole package, and then sort of make sure, and then go out to the public meetings. But we're going to take this public meetings and then look at the whole package. And I guess the public meetings could add into that.
We're getting into an agenda here. I would prefer that we just stay with, do we want to bring this back or not? That's the simple question.
Fair enough. Do we want to bring this back or not?
So I'll ask again, do you want to bring it back for a discussion? I'm taking this would be just an informational, no voting on anything, because it would be coming back for direction to staff. So it would be informational to bring it back. Supervisor Clapp, yes or no?
No.
Supervisor Mills?
I say no.
Supervisor Oliveira?
A moment. I seem to recall that the fee schedule was going to be included in that discussion with the town hall meetings. So to that purpose, I would say yes.
Bring it back?
Bring it back to make sure that happens, yes.
Supervisor Garamendi?
Yes. Get familiar there.
I'm not sure when the fee schedule is going to be complete or when all that information is going to be available. I would assume that if you had a town hall meeting, that it was to include all of that information. So when it goes out to the public, they can see this fee schedule, they can see what changes. And my conversation, and I had a conversation with county council on it, was my vision was that the public would be given the current 806 at the town hall meeting, and side by side would be any changes to 806, so they could see what 806 says now as an ordinance, and then what proposed changes, and then a fee schedule. So they have all that information to make their comments on when they went to the town hall meeting. So it's one all package. Otherwise, you're asking the public to comment on something that is not complete, which was one of the things that I had a problem with when it came before us. We were asking to approve something that the package was not complete. So I would like to see that that's the way it's done, that it's presented with the 806 and the changes, what changes or additions to it, and the fee schedule is all part of these town halls. If that was not clear to Mr. Short or staff, then I would be in favor of bringing back specifically for that comment, just for that, to give him direction that that was what the board intended to do. To open it up to have a whole new thing about it, I think that needs to be done at the town halls meetings. And so, you know, I'm very cautious on doing that because we're going to have a streamline coming in here telling us what we should and shouldn't do, when the whole specific idea is to make sure that the whole package has been given to the public when it's all put together. So I'm a little bit cautious on that. Is there any, well, it's not agendized item, so I'll say, okay, bring it back just specifically for that, and that's all, nothing else, to give staff direction on what the town halls are to consist of. So,
Mr. Chair, that's closer to what I was, to the question, and I would like to stay focused on that as well.
yeah, I mean, there's no reason to open it all up and start all over again when that's what the town hall intended purposes are, to get a public input at that time. So I'm not in favor of him giving us any presentation of anything on 806 at that time, because that's the intent of the town hall meetings for the public. And just come back and we give him direction, this is what we would like to see you do, and make sure that they have a complete presentation and the public knows what 806 says now, what his intended changes are, and what the fee schedule says, and then make their comments by public on that.
Thank you, and that's where I was confused, is are we looking at the whole thing? And the fee schedule will be there. We're being asked to set up town halls, but the whole thing wasn't there. So I think that's an appropriate, and hopefully we can figure out how to contain it to that.
So no town hall meetings is what you're saying at this point?
I'm just saying that my preference is, in order to do a town hall meeting, the whole package is there. And I think the fee schedule is probably coming close to being done. So it's just a matter of presenting the public with all the information, complete package, which I expected we were going to have when it was presented to us at that time, and it wasn't. The fee schedule was not attached to it. So I think in order of any ordinance that you're trying to get passed and have public comment on, you need to present the whole package as a whole to everybody involved, the public, the staff, the board as a whole. So we know exactly what we're looking at, exactly what I'm sorry.
I just want to caution this board, the discussion is going beyond. I believe that staff is clear that we will agendize an item to come back to this board for staff to receive direction as to what the town hall meetings will be comprised of and look like, and have a very limited study session, not an action item, but a study session before the board for staff to solicit or receive direction from the board specifically on that topic.
Okay, and I'll meet with you and staff on that agenda item.
So, Chair, this is not to be a discussion on the pros and cons of the fee schedule or 806 or anything. It's just simply the direction. Thank you.
All right. So we're all in agreement. Okay. So is that the end of your comments?
Yes, sir.
Supervisor Oliveira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Started out with our meeting regarding plan development in the Arnold area. This committee has been meeting, and it's a community committee with no ad hoc status or anything, driving information. I must say it's going along very well. I applaud the involvement of the community. I actually sit on listening to what the people are talking about, and that's very important. No decision is made. There's no voting. I don't vote, but I have the opportunity to sit down and listen how things may have changed. And that's an ongoing meeting. They meet once or twice a month. I met with Paul DeBarlo on some new programs involving our youth. As you may or may not remember, we're involved in a project called the Continuing Technical Education. In this meeting, we met with people involved in other counties in programs. One of the programs that I've introduced to CIO Lutz is an internship with the county as far as our high school students, giving them the ability to come down and spend some experience with government in different departments. He is familiar with that program. Apparently that was done in Tulare, and we're actively looking to see if we can get that type of program started here in Calaveras County. I attended the Economic Development District promotional event in Ironstone, along with several other supervisors. Supervisor Clapp was there, Supervisor Garamendi, Supervisor Mills. Of course, we didn't take part in any discussion other than we had a very enjoyable time listening to several speakers. And this was put on by folks involved with the Motherlode job training, Dave Thorney there, and some other people. Our chamber was involved in that. I think we made some headway with that, laying some groundwork and see if we can have more events like that. I think we had some other attendees, staff actually attended that. CAO Lutz attended that. On the 30th, when I say we, it's Supervisor Mills and myself and Assistant CAO Brian Moss attended the Solid Waste Task Force issues regarding Red Hill in Sacramento with the Water Quality Control Board, I believe it was. Water Board, yeah. And that was to address some of the problems we're experiencing as Calaveras County. There were some issues discussed there and some solutions, and I just received some correspondence where we're meeting those details, and I'm going to refer to Supervisor Mills for more detail if I miss anything on that. But that's part of a growing effort right now to get us squared away in our solid waste program. That has to have some adjustment there, and I'm not going to go into details as far as what or what not has to be done. I attended the solid waste I attended the tree mortality Governor's Task Force / the name has changed to the Forest Management and Health. This is a newly formed committee by the state of California under the direction of the governor. This is the second meeting we had, and what's basically happened is that tree mortality task force on a governor's status has been folded into this new forest health and management. There are 33 agencies that sit on that board now, RCRC having a seat on that board, and we're actually working in conjunction along those same goals that Supervisor Garamendi mentioned on the RCRC positions. It's going to be a difficult task because now we have 33 agencies involved, and unfortunately, the 14 high-risk counties, which Calaveras is one of regarding tree mortality, will not be able to sit on that board like we did prior to the formation of this new committee. We do have representation, and the board is being configured, if you will, because it's in an early stage. And when you have that many agencies involved, the wheels turn slow at times. There is some reorganization in progress right now. We did make some headway. It appears that we will have one seat, or at least some input, through a work group of the tree mortality high-risk counties, and a representative on that board, which we didn't have before yesterday. So that has not been determined to be fact yet. This is under consideration by the governor's representative and also by that committee. So it's still a forming process. One of the big fears I have on that is, although the funding's available, I see that with more participation on a state and federal level, I'm fearful that the funding is going to be sliced. Hopefully I'm wrong. We will be watching this. Michelle Patterson is actually attending the meetings by teleconference. We'll have more information next month, hopefully. Other than that, I'm not going to take up your time. I'll save it for next meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Mills.
Yes, unfortunately, both Supervisor Oliver and myself were able to go with staff to the water board over both Red Hill and Rock Creek. There are ongoing issues that have been going on for quite some time. I think that the water board was impressed that elected officials are willing to come and plead the case, so to speak, to give us some time and to understand where our challenges were. Our example is we don't have a recycling coordinator right now. And so when we walked into Cal Recycle and they're expecting to see a LIPS report and we don't have it done, that just creates an additional challenge. So again, because you had elected officials sitting there in the room, I think it did make a difference in the negotiating strategy, and because they could easily be dropping $10,000 a day fines on us, and we need to understand the seriousness of what is happening with our solid waste projects. Wednesday, Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Basin Authority in Stockton. The thresholds for the basin are now identified, where monitoring wells are going to be needed, including nested wells. Nested wells are both shallow wells and deep wells in the same general area that they can draw comparisons from. But the next phase will be outreach, and that outreach is important. So that's why I mentioned it earlier in the day for the 29th at 6:30 p.m. in Stockton at the Ag Center. Thursday, we were at the American Legion Ambulance Annual Report Lunch in Jackson, again with Supervisor Oliveira, and to let you know and everybody know that they are meeting the goal, which is a 90% response to meeting the times that are required. And if they're not meeting that 90% threshold, that is a problem. And I will tell you, they are meeting it in every location in Calaveras County. Friday, I met with Supervisor Hanfeld and Supervisor Rotifer and their staff in Sonora over local water and fire issues. And from that Saturday morning, I attended the U.S. Forest Service fire briefing at Dodge Ridge on the Donalds fire. There is a purpose of that, is that most of the ranchers with allotments on the Stanislaus, and there are 16 of them, they are affected directly and they live in Calaveras County District 4. And so that means that many of the cattle are being hauled out of those allotments or being sequestered in certain areas, but where are they taking them to? They're bringing them back to their ranches in District 4, which means that they need to be on extended feed programs because we don't have feed in District 4 right now. So this is an economic devastation to some degree to have those 16 allotments now literally removed from the mix. And we probably won't feel it personally because we're not involved in that agricultural activity, but I've reached out to many of those ranchers to say, what can we do to help you? I think that they need to know that their government is going to be able to stand with them where they need it. Also to understand that there are 4 wilderness teams that were inserted into Spicer Reservoir area over the weekend to cut the fire off and keep it from coming west. Those 4 teams of 10 people each are capable of going into the wilderness for 7 days without any help. And literally, they'll pack their own stuff out when they're done. And they also had pack horse teams that were going in with cattle dogs to be able to round up animals. And so a lot of coordinated effort on that Donalds fire. But even though it's in another county, understand it has an economic impact on Calaveras County. Today I have a volunteer attending the Disadvantaged Community Workshop at the Irwin in Jackson. I know Brian Moss is going to be attending this afternoon on water and wastewater. I did get a notification on the Water Resources Development Act of 2007 of a pending deallocation of a $3 million assistance in Calaveras County. And I've been asked by Congressman McClintock's staff is what do you think? And I will push back, and I've been pushing back, that I do not want that $3 million deobligated. I think that we can find a home for it somewhere. But to have that be sitting in our system, $3 million for 10 years and no activity, at least the government is looking. There's literally billions of dollars in this Development Act of 2007, and they're just trying to get the ones that weren't active cleaned up. So I will continue to work on this because that is, again, $3 million in an economic resource that's available to Calaveras County if we just take advantage of it. So thank you for your time.
Supervisor Clapp? Can you turn your microphone on, please?
I attended Area 12 in Sonora, and I attended Good Morning Calaveras for the Chamber. You forgot that.
That's it? My turn. Supervisor Mills brought up the ambulance service, which I'll have a conversation with you afterwards. But he brought it up, and that's their contract is through Mountain Valley EMS, and I am the board rep on that board. And our contract with that ambulance service is less than 2 years away, so now is when they start putting together what we would like to see in the upcoming contract negotiations. So the kickoff meeting is Friday at Kristen Brink's office with Lance, the new director for Mountain Valley EMS. I'm attending, and Krista is attending for Tim. So that's it. It's been changed to 9:30. It was 10:30, but I just got an email saying it's been changed to 9:30. So we will be kicking off our meetings as county goes with our local agency, or JPA agency that represents us in those negotiations. So that is coming up in 2 years for the ambulance service contracts. Wanted to bring that up since you had brought up attending, which I didn't have a chance to attend. I normally do. Also, I want to bring up that there was an email sent out yesterday by Rebecca Turner concerning the board's ability to reach the 5% reduction that we'd asked all of staff to do in the upcoming final budget. I met with her, and I told her to take my entire travel expense away and add it into this reduction. I'm asking the board, the rest of the board, to do the same so we can meet the 5%. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult if we don't do that. I very rarely use mine. I did not use any of it last year, and I didn't plan on using any of it this year. We went to Sacramento. I did not claim anything in parking, the lunch, the travel miles or anything. And Jack brought it up. We did meet there. We did go for the rally. I was kind of disappointed in some of the meetings we had, as Jack pointed out, the urban thinking. But I want to ask, yesterday I had a conversation with county council, and she had some information regarding Senator Gaines, and I think one of the best meetings that we had there that day was with Senator Gaines. He was very attentive to what we were saying. He represents rural areas, and apparently he is taking it on himself to do some lobbying for us and what we said. Do you want to bring something up, what we talked about yesterday?
Just that I believe that what we did with what we spoke with Senator Gaines about did have influence. It wasn't Senator Gaines, but a different senator that I believe Senator Gaines did have some influence over, had some conversations during, or made comments and a presentation during one of the committee meetings that was certainly positive for the purpose of us being there.
Yeah, thank you. So we did do some good, I think, at our rally that we had in Sacramento and the meetings we had with assemblymen and senators. So with that, that concludes my presentation. Krista, do you have anything to say?
Thank you very much.
Turn your microphone on.
I need to learn how to use the mic. Thanks very much for having me on my maiden voyage up here today, and I'll look forward to seeing you on Friday.
Okay. County Council.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Madam Clerk. No? You have nothing to report? All right. Well, with that, we are adjourned.